Well, greetings again, everybody. It's me, Nick Michalak, and the spectacular Steve Frazier.
Hello, excuse me. Boy, I'm just not doing good today. Here we go. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. And, of course, as would be obvious, we are doing another installment in our Stephen King adaptation commentary series.
It's been a minute.
With 2017's version of It, a.k.a. It Chapter 1. So, guys, you got your own copy of the film. Get your timestamp over to 0 to sync up with our commentary. Turn on your subtitles to follow along. So we'll get going in with the countdown. So in 3, 2, 1, play.
All right, let's try this talking thing again.
Yes. We're watching the 4K Dolby Vision version.
Excellent. Excellent. I've not yet watched this in 4K.
You said you have not purchased these because you're waiting for them to do the extended re-edit version they've been promising for years and have been delinquent on.
Even, maybe not a re-edit, but at least like some sort of package combo set.
Yeah, Best Buy put out like a 2-pack right when the second one hit, and then it went out of print.
Yeah, but that was kind of a, just like, here's...
slapping the two discs together. Right. You're looking for much more expanded package.
Yeah, I want something fancy.
Yeah, I don't know what the holdup is.
I can't tell you how excited I am to cover this movie.
That's why I put it on the schedule for you.
Well,
because I knew you were very much up on this one. So I was like, okay, well, I need to make the man happy.
I appreciate
we weren't happy
you.
the last time we sat down and talked about shit.
Well, it's fine. So, it was published in 1986. And Gremlin's poster on the wall, it's a nice touch. The novel, which is, to this day, his longest novel,
1,200 pages.
comes in right about 1,100 pages. 1,100. In the hardcover, anyway.
Okay.
Not sure.
There was an anniversary version, 25th anniversary, that did a little extra something.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I'm not sure what...
Beetlejuice poster.
Yeah.
All day I just picked up Gremlins and Beetlejuice on 4K.
Yeah, you did. I was going to say. That's weird. I've read it twice, and the most recent time was in the spring of 2017, right before the movie came out.
You need a couple months.
And
it takes a
It does
while.
take a long...
while.
It takes
a
really
dense.
long time. Yep. So it looks like you and I would have been in the age range, somewhere right in between these two.
Yeah.
Because little Georgie here is about 5, I think.
Roughly, yeah.
In the story. And Bill is roughly, 12 or 13. And we would have been 8.
Yeah.
At this point in our lives, so... boy, where to begin? The excitement for this movie started, maybe a decade before that it actually came out. There was talks and more talks. And,
yeah, there were a couple directors attached that kind of went through a revolving door.
Well, most notably, the one that made it the longest prior to the person that actually got the job
Muschietti, yeah.
was Cary Fukunaga, who was responsible for season 1 of True Detective, which is, I still maintain, 8 of the greatest hours of television ever produced.
Okay.
If anybody has not seen True Detective, oh my God, go get it right now. And I was beyond excited to see what he was going to do with this movie, based on my knowledge of his True Detective work.
He never revealed any details. He was just saying he wanted to go for something much more unconventional as a horror movie, and they weren't meeting with minds between him and New Line Cinema.
Sure. there obviously in the course of 1,100 pages of the novel, you can really get into so much more minutia.
Sure.
They did a pretty decent job of capturing the relationship between these two. Big Bill here, his character does stutter in the first section. So once Muschietti, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, it was a little Muschietti, I think it is.
Once he came on, the decision was made to have the first part of the movie, Chapter 1, as it were, solely... God, that's a great visual. Solely cover the younger years.
Right.
And
basically splitting up very similar to what the miniseries had done before, which seems like a bit logical, but
yes,
I would like to see a version where they did maintain the novel's structure.
So, part of the charm of the novel, I do like that we're going to get into the horror here right away, where you set up your genre.
Right.
And this scene is straight out of the novel. It is not the first scene in the novel.
Okay.
Or first section, because the novel does go back and forth.
Right.
Oh my God, goes back and forth between the adult years and the child years.
Right.
I also recall as the we'll come back to the back and forth thing in a minute.
All right.
There was a lot of talk about the look of Pennywise in this.
Sure.
And because, so the 1990 miniseries starring Tim Curry and et al., but Tim Curry, top billing there.
Sure.
Tim Curry's Pennywise is so iconic and so well performed that it'd be like recasting Freddy Krueger or
there's a lot of problems with that miniseries.
There are.
There's a lot of production shortcomings and stuff like that, but because Curry's so good, he's carried the notoriety of that thing well above the flaws.
Tenfold, yes. And it's very similar, in fact, to another Stephen King adaptation of The Shining, where everyone loved Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Yeah.
But they didn't care for the movie.
Right.
Then there was that miniseries in 1997 with Steven Weber, wherein the story was much more true to the book.
Right.
But Steven Weber was shit.
Yeah. He's a decent actor. He's not Nicholson. Nicholson's blockbuster actor.
So had they had, say, the screenplay from the show and the cast from the original, that would have been great. So, not to say that I would take Tim Curry and put him in this role, because
in this version,
I do think that Skarsgård 100% nailed it.
Okay.
And everyone was so caught up in them changing the look of the character. This is actually a little closer to what is described in the novel. But again, now you've got the Tim Curry reference point.
Right.
And it almost feels like, well, it's that old argument that I make about better than, less than, or...
Right, different than.
Right, different than. So, sweet Jesus, look at that. And this is great. I mean, the straight up gore right off the bat.
Yeah.
One of the shortcomings of the miniseries is it was made for TV.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
doing much.
It wasn't rated R, quote unquote.
Right.
That was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And part of the Yeah. Part of the brilliance or the ability of this movie to be rated R adds to the greatness.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Everyone said, oh, it's not Tim Curry. Yes, I get it. It's not. But I do think that this adaptation is better. I believe that.
Okay.
1989, the greatest year of all years. Mm-hmm. I think this was shot in Vancouver. But
up around Toronto.
Oh, was it around? It was around Toronto. You're right.
Toronto area.
You're right. It was Toronto. The setting of the novel is the town of Derry, Maine, which is a made-up town, not in a real place.
Mm-hmm. It's Creighton Duke.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Stephen Williams, man. It's like, oh, cool. He gets a moment.
The town of Derry is based on the town of Bangor, Maine, which is where Stephen King lived. And the premise of the movie just happened to be he was walking down the street one day and looked in the sewer and said, what if something lived in there?
Yeah.
I've gone to Bangor on a mission, so to speak, a pilgrimage. Mm-hmm. I've been there a couple times. I've been at that very intersection and looked in that very same drain hole, which doesn't look like the one here in the movie, but it is right, blocks away from Stephen King's home. Here we have our first look at some of the characters, including a young Finn Wolfhard, who is already Stranger Things famous at this point. Talk about a rocket ship tied to your ass.
Sure, yeah.
These older characters, I do think, are very underdeveloped in this adaptation. Yeah. The bullies, as it were.
Sure, yeah.
But they do a decent job. I feel like it's okay enough. And anyway, so I've been to Bangor, and the town of Bangor is, the town of Bangor is set up, described, or the town of Derry is described basically to match Bangor with this kind of stream thing and the channel that runs through the middle of downtown and turns into, that's gross, turns into like this kind of winded through the forest stream thing that becomes the the Barrens, as it were, which I've hiked through there and like, oh my God, it's just the coolest thing to think like, oh, he walked through here and like wrote about it in a story. One of the limitations of starting in the childhood era is that you don't have the kind of foresight or the reference points. So there has to be a little bit more exposition,
right,
to give you.
Because the main reason why the novel is set up that way is because the idea is that once you leave Derry, your memories almost completely fade away over time, so you don't really remember it. So a lot of the characters are being brought back after the entity is reemerged, and they're brought back there, so they're starting to remember. So that's why we get the kid's story in almost a flashback format, right?
That's correct. So the opening of the novel is the opening of the second book, or the second movie, where there's the carnival, and the two gay gentlemen are murdered, and in the novel, Mike, the black kid, is the only one that has stayed in town and becomes like a town historian. Yeah, and he. The part one of the book, the novel, it's broken up into like major sections. And the first one is called, it's either 6 or 7 phone calls. Okay. So, basically it's him calling each of the other characters to say, it has come back, it's time to reunite. The little diorama thing that he was just holding features the quote-unquote standpipe, which is like the town water tower, and plays a significant role in the novel. Actually looks just like that. I've been there. I should share some of my photos of my trip to Derry. And that's like a little wink and a nod, I guess, like just a shout-out, because they eliminated all of the storyline from that location from the movie. But they decided to give you that little taste with the diorama.
That's decent, yeah.
In fact, sitting right outside of the actual Derry or Bangor standpipe is a park bench in which Stephen King sat and wrote a majority of this novel, which I've also sat at.
I want to say I really like these two.
These two are fantastic, and this is a really great adaptation, because this is very much what it's like in the movie. She's in love with Bill, he's in love with her, and it's perfectly cast. Perfectly cast. Anyway, as we were saying, so the novel... New kids, yeah.
Oh, D. Wahlberg.
Right, my old neighbor. Not really, but he lived 10 minutes from me. I love it. So, there's so many little like novel things in here that they're like referencing for us that are marks for the story. And so as Mike is calling each of them to say, hey, it's come back, there is then a flashback about that character's time as a child. Then, after we get all of that, they actually do return to Derry, and they meet up, and they reunite, and as they reunite, they realize that they have forgotten their childhood, and together they go through another round of storytelling and remembering, which, so there's so much back and forth throughout the entire 1,100 pages.
And parallel storylines.
Correct. And one of the, as we talk about all the time, the Stephen King, like major trope that he has is the the childhood bonding together, like through the eyes of the children, and that's really what this whole thing is about. You know, there's Bill thinking like, oh, maybe that actually looks a lot like Bangor. It's very hilly. It's very like small town America. Yeah, they did a great job. Downtown looks pretty much like this. Rack of Lamb only $10 back in '89. There's Batman and Lethal Weapon 2. That's a great double feature.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that double feature.
Yeah.
So clearly they weren't able to adapt purely. Sometimes, just because of complications, as we talk about all the time, the editing or the changing of stories for the sake of
just
time
freshening
or
it up or
freshening
something.
it up, combining different storylines.
Right. Fold things in together.
Which is actually kind of what this is like. It's kind of the combining of stories.
Right.
Ultimately, really, it's about the clown using your fears against you. Whatever you're most afraid of.
Yeah.
It's a decent job of being racist. Or showing racism. So yeah, his fear in the movie or in the novel was definitely not a picture on the wall.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I don't remember specifically who had what because there's like 8 of them and they're all a little different.
Right.
And it's been now 5-6 years since I've read it, and I've watched this so many a few times in between, so I get a little wishy-washy on the details. They also kind of missed an opportunity in keeping Mike as a kind of town historian.
Yeah, because that's the main thing. They give all that stuff over to Ben.
Yeah.
Which really diminishes Mike's role in the whole film.
I would agree with that. I mean, this is creepy that the character's gone out of the picture. Ben's story arc was really that he was the, chubby loser, and then went on to be like super rich and an architect and super buff and unrecognizable, basically.
Yeah.
And very successful. They did a pretty good job of keeping Eddie as a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not a hypochondriac, but
at least his mother is that, and then it kind of
it's projected on. Correct. Like, I feel like that's a woman in a fat suit.
Something about the positioning.
Yeah.
The kind of sweat on the brow and everything looks a little artificial.
It almost looks like she's got her head and arms stuck through the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
the posture's makes it a little weird with the camera angle.
What a beautiful location.
Oh, yeah. It fits very well with like how you saw Pet Sematary and how that town was at least alluded to. They didn't show a lot of downtown with kind of either version of it, but you could see it slotting that story right into this framework.
Right, and that's a credit to this because Pet Sematary was filmed 20 minutes from Bangor.
Yeah.
You know, so that's real.
Yeah.
This is pretend.
Yeah.
But you're right. They kind of took the history factor and gave it to him. And it doesn't really do his character any...
It doesn't have any of the other elements that are already there for Ben.
Right. I mean, he already had a story.
Right. He ends up having a little bit of a love triangle with him, Bill and Bev. It just kind of... It just takes more away from Mike, where he seems a little ancillary to this end of the story.
Right. Now, here's a scene that in the novel is one of my favorites, and they reduced it down to him looking at pictures in a book, which I totally understand. But as part of the... And they actually make it part of his fear, which is weird. You know what I mean? The story of the evil entity returning every 27 years is a thing. And so when you count back in the story, they often talk about the different disasters or catastrophes or eras of disaster, murder, mayhem, what have you.
Epidemics.
Right. And there's usually either a jump starting point or like a final concluding thing.
Blow up.
And one of them, and I don't remember the exact year, and here they made it 1908. I don't know if that's exact or not.
Yeah, it might be shifted.
Based on the timeline that they created here.
Yeah.
But was a local ironworks build factory was hosting on Easter Sunday an egg hunt.
Sure.
And mysteriously, the ironworks exploded, killing 88 of the children that were all hunting Easter eggs. And obviously in the novel it's described in detail, and it's super interesting, which they reduced down to picture book here. And now, because he read about it in the picture book, he seems to be visualizing this as his fear, which I don't love.
It's a little shortchanged, a little abrupt.
Right. Now, the effects are great.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks awesome. Some of the fears in the novel are, and maybe this is part of it too, the novel is set, the present day is set in the 80s, and the back then is set in the 50s.
Right.
So they wanted to update the fears.
Yeah.
Because 50s fears don't necessarily compute,
right. A lot of the stuff,
translate.
Well, at least if it's the same thing as the previous adaptation, it was a lot more like the monster movies at the time, Wolfman and stuff like that. So
the Mummy was one.
It was... Because in this one, you don't want to like, oh, here's Freddy Krueger. It's a little too specific.
Right.
You need something a little more generalized as a fear.
Right. Now, this scene is straight out of the novel. Where the bullies get a hold of Ben on the bridge here and start carving I love that. Oh my god, it's so good. Oh, ow. Fuck. He scratches a B into his name, or into his belly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an H. You're right. I was thinking it was Ben, but no, it's... Bowers. Yeah. That's a stunt kid. And so they use this in the movie, just like the novel, that basically for him to escape the bullies and meet up for the first time with the main group of kids. And that's how he befriends them.
Okay.
Part of the limitation, well, not limitation, part of the problem with splitting it up like this is that the adult story is not as interesting.
Right.
And the reason that the adult story is interesting in the novel is because part of that story is them remembering their childhood.
Right.
So
we go into it knowing we're already ahead of them and where things are, so it's like we're just waiting for them to catch up.
Which is dramatic irony, which I hate.
Yeah.
But there are other characters, such as Henry Bowers and Bill's wife Audra, and other adult characters that have very distinct storylines that they just omitted.
Yeah.
And in the name of having the adults be afraid again.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Which is fine. But this half of the story, much more true to the novel. Even though the fears are a little different.
Yeah.
The concepts is the same. And a lot of the same beats happen, just with slightly different details.
All right.
He makes like 15 dick jokes in this. It's so great. Another little Easter egg here on Bill's shirt is the logo for the Tracker Brothers.
Okay.
And that is a location in the novel that many story points revolve around.
All right.
So, again, they eliminated all of that from the movie.
Okay.
But they said, let's give them a little taste for those of you that are paying attention. I got really pissed though when the standpipe from Ben's little diorama didn't show up later.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, that's all we get? Because it's like a major plot point. To the point where in the end of the novel, the standpipe actually like gets knocked over and like rolls through town and like it's at that reference that storyline is referenced in almost every subsequent novel that takes place in Derry. They reference like the standpipe and the great like disaster of 1990 or whenever it's set in. I would absolutely play in this area if it was made available to me. I love the visuals. Like, just the way that this is shot. I mean, I assume this is a set.
Probably. It's like I kept looking at this kid. I was like, I don't know if I've actually seen him anything else before, but his look is very familiar.
I agree with that.
There's definitely something about it.
He looks like an 80s bully.
Yeah.
These being the ghosts of all the kids that are currently missing, I guess. Which I don't think is how his demise happens in the novel. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
Because again, there's like 4 or 5 bullies.
Right.
That
get a little.
I don't remember
what. Fuzzy on it,
right, and they also they combine details and whatever.
Right.
But that is terrifying, and I love the way that they adapted Pennywise in this movie.
Okay.
Which, as we learn later on, is the clown is just one manifestation of the evil that is inherent in this town. And a lot was made of the fact, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but it just so happened that the time between the 1990 movie and the 2017 movie was 27 years, which is the amount of time that one cycle of terror.
So what are we waiting for? Was it 2044 or something now, or what it is?
Well, 17 and 27, so 30, 44. There was a great way to say everything without using any dialogue.
Right.
Brilliant. All of this is brilliant. Because they're kids.
Yeah.
And she is striking.
Oh, yeah.
There's something about her. Mr. Keene is the pharmacist at the dairy, drugstore.
Sure.
He appears in multiple novels.
Okay.
As reference point.
Sure.
It may have even actually been called Keene's pharmacy or something.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they have gone? Well, never mind.
Yeah, Sophia here. She's got star written all over.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she got good sparkle. She's got charm.
He's so flustered.
I like the two characters. I love the relationship.
And they're like, wait, the girl's gonna come? Because now that storyline actually worked better in the 50s.
Yeah, a little bit more.
You know. One of the great character traits of Finn's character Richie was that he always did voices. He had like all these characters that he would turn into, so to speak.
Okay.
And then in adult life, he became a famous radio DJ.
Yeah.
That did the same characters on the radio. Mm-hmm. One of which, the one that I remember the most, is like an Irish cop.
Okay.
And so, those sections when he turns into the Irish cop are written in like a brogue in the novel, so that you read it like.
Sure, yeah.
So they did try to do a little bit of that with Richie. Okay. He did like a Spanish one, and then he kind of did a British one.
Okay.
So they're a lot more overt with this storyline, like a little on the nose
with this relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's got tension, man. So
tension. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely creepy.
100%. But again, it was one of those where in the novel it kind of builds, and you can think she's wearing a wig there. You can totally tell.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
It's like you're learning about her character and her backstory at various points, throughout adult and whatever.
Yeah.
And you very slowly over the course of time realize that, maybe he wasn't all that pure as a father.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever go so far as to say that, like, he specifically, like, molested her or something.
Right.
But
they imply enough to make your imagination just
exactly
take a heave-ho.
What a great shot this is, right? Oh, yeah. Tremendous. He waves. I love it. I assume that's real people jumping off of a real cliff.
Yeah.
I love a montage of childhood.
Sure.
Innocence, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this kid, she's just amazing, but even he is really good. Because, again, there's no dialogue here.
Right.
There's a little bit of music to help you along, but
Yeah.
They're like, wait, what is this? And what is that? It's perfect. It's perfectly written.
And there it is again.
There it is again. Yeah, they certainly didn't. They didn't do Mike any favors by giving his storyline to Ben.
Right. Now, in the novel, does this thing happen? This sort of revelation, this stuff happen later on?
Of what?
Well, just this sort of research stuff, when they start going through the records and everything, does that happen later on after they've already started kind of getting more into the plot of things?
Yes.
With Pennywise? Cause
yeah.
It does feel like, I'm going to say my main issue when I was watching this, like, it feels like we're still in the first act.
Essentially, yeah.
There's no objective until halfway into the film.
Well, and again, that's because halfway through the film is really
a quarter through the novel or something.
Right, yeah. Well, and the beginning of the novel is the beginning of the second movie, which is the halfway point.
Right.
So,
I was just a little bothered by the fact that the traction of the story is a little off in getting to where it needs to get to.
Right. And you're right. Like, Mike is I'm getting so confused because Finn Wolfhard, Richie's character on Stranger Things is named Mike.
Okay.
And so when I say Mike, like my brain points to him.
Right.
But I have to shift gears and say, no, that's...
And Black Mike.
Right, Black Mike, not Finn Mike.
On it.
So, yeah, like, the history lesson happens in the second, like the final quarter of the novel, really.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, there's some back and forth as they all get together and Mike is explaining things, and everyone's getting their memory back, so to speak. That, a lot of that happens definitely in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, maybe I'm misremembering because, they do kind of, the phone calls happen first. Yeah. So you get present day storyline for all of them.
Yeah.
And you get at least one. You get at least one flashback for each of them regarding something.
Yeah.
One of them in the novel is chased, or his apparition is of a leper.
Yeah.
And who actually does try to molest him or something.
Yeah, okay.
Which is very weird. And I think they just kind of combine that into a couple other things here. But the house on Nibolt Street is in fact a thing in the movie or in the novel. I feel like they kind of overproduced it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little too much. If there was a house in that bad of a shape, they would have just bulldozed it.
Right, it looks so out of place.
Right.
You know, Granted, it's at the end of the street and whatever, but
it's the Klopex house out of the burbs.
Right.
It's like, ah.
Oh, I guess they did kind of use it here, didn't they? The leper.
Yeah. Well.
And again, this is great effects and prosthetics and makeup, and I was always thrown off by the sunflowers. Sunflowers are my favorite flower, and it's just a little weird that everything here is dead.
Yeah.
The house looks awful, but yet there's all these fresh sunflowers.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
This is our first, like, daylight scene, right?
Yeah.
That's a great line. If you lived here, you'd be home by now. I wish he would do conventions.
Huh.
I can't even tell you the amount of money he would make. Doing photo ops. Maybe not even like in costume. Autographs, whatever. I mean, I would absolutely pay to have him sign a poster or whatever. The poem, right straight out of the novel. Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too. It's forever. It's like in my mind. If you said recite me a poem,
sure, yeah.
I don't think I could give you any famous poem other than your hair is whatever.
Sure.
And of course she thinks that Bill wrote it.
Ah, yeah.
And this is right out of the novel too. She hears voices coming from the drain. They've also, one of the other kind of things that is revealed is that the adults just kind of don't see what's happening.
Right. There's kind of almost like a, for lack of a better word, a spell put over them.
Right. That once you become an adult, you're not susceptible to it anymore.
Right. And there's just almost a unconscious thing. That's why they show a lot of the adults just kind of shying away when things are happening to the kids. They're kind of blinded by the evil itself. So it's like they just have an aversion towards dealing with it.
Much like when Ben was getting beat by the bullies on the bridge and the car drove by, the car didn't even acknowledge that there were people there.
And that's why the old lady, when Georgie was in the sewer drain, she was just kind of backing away and kind of almost reluctantly, like she's almost like they're aware that if I do anything, something bad is going to happen to me, so I just leave it alone.
Right.
This is just the way it is, and I can't do anything about it.
This looks amazing.
Yeah.
And by the way, as somebody with long hair who clogs a drain every day, this is terrifying. And the blood coming out of the drain is straight out of the novel. It's also metaphoric with her period.
Sure, yeah. They might have been able to kind of push that a little more on the nose on this one, I think.
Yeah, because there's like, there's a coming of age kind of story. And here's where it really comes into...
Right. You don't see nothing.
He sees nothing.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, in the book, she says that she saw a spider, and that's why she screamed or something.
Sure. Yeah, this guy's a very good actor.
Agreed. And she's a very good actor, so they're
blockbuster together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's magic. And the production design here is spectacular as well.
Mm-hmm. That's a nice transition.
Yep. I believe they did hurry up the storyline a little bit here, because in the novel, if my memory serves, she recruits all of the boys to come to her house and help her clean the bathroom.
Right.
So that her dad won't see the problem.
Yeah.
And it isn't until later on that it's revealed that he wouldn't have seen it anyway.
Right.
So again, they kind of, just
condensed the
mashed
story,
it up a little bit for the
Yeah.
sake of hurrying it along.
Right.
But also, some of the changes are done because we're not doing flashback.
Certainly, yeah.
We're not telling the same type of story.
Mm-hmm. Oh. We have to talk about that turtle at some point.
Well,
The space turtle.
the space turtle.
Because there's cocaine. There's a lot of cocaine.
There's a lot
in
of
this
cocaine.
novel.
In 1986, there was a lot of cocaine.
More cocaine than you'll ever imagine.
And
It's going right up King's nose. And right onto the page.
yeah, the last like eighth of the book gets very weird into the origin of of the evil.
Yes,
And it goes like back to the dinosaurs and a meteor and how the like, I don't know, the evil like cosmic entity got kind of blasted into the ground underneath Derry.
Yeah.
And as the kids are facing, I think it is the children's story.
I believe. But yeah.
Because again, it's back and forth. So
It's a little muddled.
You don't, as you're going through, the kids don't remember the final battle that they had until the end of the novel, when the adults are also having their final battle. So again, parallel stories, right? So, because it's the same parallel timeline of remembering.
Yes.
And I believe it's the children's version of the sewer battle that there's like this. It really goes into like the subconscious and the
a lot more.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It kind of takes on more of it manifests your own perception. It's not really exact. What it is in reality isn't exactly what you're saying.
Yes. And then there's the like cosmic space turtle, which is weird. I had the good fortune of meeting Jackson Robert Scott here, who played Georgie.
I think you mentioned that before.
Every time that there's a child actor in a movie, and I have the opportunity to meet that person, I want to do it when they look like if I'm going to take a photo.
Right.
I want him to appear as he did in the movie.
Sure.
Like I met Miko Hughes.
Yeah.
But I met Miko Hughes when he was 30.
Sure, not when he was 8.
Right. This is great. This looks so good.
Right.
Like, that's terrifying. That's reminiscent of Zelda coming out of the the crouching position. But not as scary as Zelda.
No.
Could she be any more cool?
Oh, yeah.
Where was I going with this? So I met Jackson Robert Scott.
Sure.
And, you know, he's a kid.
Yeah.
He'd been signing autographs all day long.
He was a little tired.
He was tired. His dad was next to him.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, right. And, I don't even remember. I did ask him a question. I don't even remember what it was.
Sure.
But he was very, I don't know, almost a non-answer because he was tired. And
right, sure.
The dad was like apologetic. And I was like, dude, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I understand. A little fuzzy on the bottom there. I don't know if you saw that. It wasn't as crisp. Unless it's supposed to be that way.
I don't know.
Oh, here, yeah, she's bringing the kids to help clean it up.
Yeah.
And the kids can see it.
Yeah.
But the adults can't.
Exactly.
I just think that in the novel, the dad wasn't involved in that.
Okay.
I don't think.
Sure.
Maybe, I mean, I'll probably get corrected in the comments.
I mean, I feel like they did the same way in the other version, too. The other adaptation.
Yeah.
It wasn't as elaborate as this, but at least it was the fact that the same thing happened and he walks in and doesn't see shit.
Right. And maybe I'm just misremembering. Maybe that is exactly how it goes. I just know that that story of her and the dad evolves. It starts slow and gets, progresses.
Yeah.
This is really well done.
Yeah. Just can't imagine how many hours it would take. I mean, it was on the fucking ceiling, for Christ's sake.
Right. And just think of all the DNA evidence that's still behind. Like, if you went in there with a black light or...
Something, yeah.
What's that what's the name of that chemical that the cops use to catch the blood?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
She looks good with short hair.
Yeah.
I do think they missed an opportunity to have him really stutter, though.
Yeah.
He does a little bit,
yeah,
but it's not as pronounced as it should be.
It doesn't get as clenched up in certain tenser sequences.
Right. Now she knows he didn't write it.
Uh-huh.
And I guess it's logical that she doesn't know handwriting.
Right.
They do a good job of presenting her as like a tomboy.
Yeah.
Which makes her fit in well with the others.
Yeah. She also feels a little older than the rest of them.
A little bit, yeah.
A year or two older.
I think in this adaptation, the older Richie, the Bill Hader character, is a stand-up comedian. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So they try to play into that a little bit more.
Okay. I've done research. I have not seen the second part, but I looked into things, and they made that change because, as you said, in the original novel, he was a disc jockey. But like, if you're playing things off now, it's like disc jockeys ain't fucking anything, man.
Right.
And fuck all of anything, man. It's a computer-based fucking industry now.
Pretty much. Stand-up comedians are still relevant no matter what era you're in.
Yeah.
Trans Am. Mm-hmm. Not quite the Bandit, but...
No.
So good that he puts the thing down.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's become one of my absolute favorite memes, or GIFs, rather. Like, if there is a waving GIF that you're in search of, people, I feel like the top two are Tom Hanks from Forrest Gump, right, on the boat with the waving, and then Pennywise waving little Georgie's arm. I dare anybody right now to go to your phone, type a text, pull up the little GIF box, and then type waving, and give me a better one other than Tom Hanks and Pennywise with the arm.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is right out of the novel as well. They get into a rock fight, which is how they incorporate Mike into their group.
Okay. But yeah, so at the whole point where they're rolling down the street and they realize they've all seen the same clown, that's our midpoint in the film. And I feel that's actually where the second act begins, because now they've all kind of begin to form an objective.
Which, let's go back to our very first commentary 6 years ago, and the great line uttered by Heather Langenkamp that says, "You dreamed about this." No, it was Tina that said it, right? "You dreamed about the same creep that I did."
Yeah.
That happens, 12 minutes into Nightmare 1?
Maybe.
Not to say that that's the switch from Act 1 to Act 2.
Definitely.
It might be.
Close is between that and when Tina gets killed by Freddy.
Right.
And then we switch over to Nancy as the main character.
Right. But you're right. Like, that kind of revelation is really, I guess, the midpoint of the movie.
It works. I mean, it's a perfect midpoint, but also it's like you have delayed the second act a long old time.
Right, because we don't have a main character and we don't have an objective.
Right.
We just have a group of people and some events that are happening.
Right.
But not one of them has been identified. Now, I guess you could argue that here, at the midpoint, once we whatever,
right,
that they are collectively a main character. Mm-hmm. The club is the main character.
Yeah. It's ensemble. So it really doesn't make sense for it to start the second act until all of them have come together.
Right. So this lumberjack, what I'm drawing a blank on. Paul, yeah. This is actually based on, and they left this out of the other movie, the 1990 miniseries. This is a very big part of the novel, and I'm glad that they put it in here.
Okay.
If you go to Bangor, Maine, for some reason, there is a, 60-foot tall lumberjack statue in the middle of town. Not in the middle of town, it's kind of in the outskirts of town.
Sure.
For no reason, in a park.
Yeah.
And, the base of the thing is as tall as I am.
Oh, jeez.
And then it goes up from there.
Oof. You think lumberjack, you don't think Maine.
Right, exactly. And at one point, one of them visualizes it coming to life.
Okay.
And it,
Sure.
Here's another part where they took a little storyline and smushed it up and regurgitated it as somebody else's storyline.
Yeah, because I heard his parents in the novel they're not dead.
No.
No.
No, absolutely not. And I believe it's his father that was involved in a fire.
Okay.
At what somewhere in this earlier they referenced the black spot.
Okay.
Which was a major and part of Mike's memory.
Okay.
Was him remembering his dad telling him the story.
Okay.
And it was a nightclub, a black nightclub in the novel. Yeah. And I don't know if they specifically said it was the KKK, but it was. It
would have been kind of an underground sort of thing,
right?
Speakeasy,
right?
Type of thing.
And a group of nefarious characters blocked it up and set it on fire.
Okay, yeah.
To kill all the black people.
Yes, I'm very in the heat of the night Mississippi burning scenario.
Yeah. And so they took that story and kind of gave it to Mike as him surviving a fire.
Okay. So they kind of detach it from the racial thing and just kind of made it an incident that happened.
Correct. And what was a really great little Easter egg in the novel is that the cook at the Black Spot, one of the people that survived, a few people survived, was Dick Halloran, who later went on to be the cook at the Overlook Hotel in The Shining.
Okay.
So it was a callback. It was a cross-reference.
So that's Scatman Carruthers' character.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay. Very, very pivotal character.
Yes. So they give a little bit of a backstory to hit that character.
So that's awesome.
Isn't that so cool?
That's something I love about King. He just threads all this stuff together. And
all of it.
In fact, if people give Marvel did all this stuff. He did this just fucking 30 years ago.
Stephen
King might not have been all in the films, but it's like he did this in literature.
Exactly. And he is the greatest storyteller of our time and any other time. I love this scene. This is not in the novel, but this is very cool. That the carousel just starts going on its own and morphs into Pennywise. Mm. Finn gets all the great lines in this story. I assume this is like the midpoint of the movie.
We're past it.
Oh, we are.
It happened 10 minutes ago.
That's creepy as shit. I don't know, I just feel like this is the first time that they've all seen it together.
Right.
So,
I mean,
I guess structurally...
That was the structure is the main thing that was nagging at me going through, because again, the second act is when things really start getting interesting. You pick up the traction of the story, things actually start happening. Until then, you're just kind of elongated setup for everything. You haven't gotten to the point of what's happening. So it was kind of stretching my patience. It was the thing. I want to get to the point of the story, and it just took a real long time to get there.
Well, in some ways, we still haven't gotten there.
Right. But at least now that they've kind of come up to an antagonist.
Right.
They can start formulating
a
plot around that. They're at least motivated towards an end at this point.
Again, overproduced on this haunted house look. He thrusts his fist against the post and still insists he sees the ghosts is his
sort of calming
influence
thing, or
it's not that. It's to help his stuttering.
All right,
so it's a device to repeat. I forget what the word is, but
right.
It's like a therapeutic
control.
Right. If you recite this, it will help you stop stuttering.
Yeah.
On Finn's shirt there, Freeze's department store is another location from the novel that they threw out as a
thing.
Right. They did a really good job of making that character, Stan, be, afraid.
Mm-hmm.
He's always the one that isn't fully invested.
Mm-hmm. Or fully confident about being involved.
Right. Which perfectly sets up his demise later on.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
This is a nice little touch. Again, something that they added to the story. I don't recall them having this kind of personal
mind game,
yeah. I know a lot of people don't like him for some reason, but I think he's really great.
For Richie?
Finn, yeah.
Just Finn, the actor.
Finn, the actor, yeah. They don't like him on Stranger Things. They don't like
him.
I don't know what it is. I think he's really great.
Because I think when Stranger Things hit season 1, I was in the middle of moving house and changing jobs, so I never got into the series. So
you need to start tonight.
It just came off at the wrong time for me.
You need to start right when we're done. I'm going to leave. You turn on season 1, episode 1, and then you text me when it's over. It is so Stephen King and so 1980s that, I didn't watch it right away. And, because I was I don't know. And everybody I knew messaged me, and they were like, if anybody's going to like this show, it's you. And I was, then at that point it becomes overhyped, and you're like, well, now I don't want to watch because there's too much pressure.
Yeah.
But then I watched, and I mean, 5 minutes in, I was hooked. Like the opening title sequence, and I was, okay. I'm in, all in.
I end up watching shows that no one's watching, no one's talking about, no one ever remembers. So it's like I never have these problems.
I am so, like, I'm not a bandwagoner either, but I have this need to be, like, current on everything.
Oh, well, when Netflix had their Marvel series, like, I was watching Daredevil first fucking day, watched the whole thing straight through until, like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, because I just had to do it, and usually I was doing a video on it the next day or something, but that was kind of the last thing. I was like right on the pulse of getting on top of things. And since then, nothing's kind of entirely agreed with me.
There's the leper.
Oof.
That was a nice little stun. This is our first glimpse of. Oh, we get a lot of good Easter eggs in this scene here. This is the clown room, right?
Yeah.
So, be on the lookout. Somewhere in this room is a likeness of the Tim Curry Pennywise, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
There, I think that was it up on the wall.
It looked a little bit like him, yeah. Right.
And I want to say there's another doll that gets... I don't know if I don't think it's the one from Saw, but I feel like there's some other character in here that you recognize.
The look on the fringes here.
I know. I saw the Tim Curry Pennywise.
Okay.
It's straight back.
See if we get another wide shot.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get a wide shot again. But it was definitely there. It's right behind him there. You see with the yellow...
straight up, yeah. Nicely done.
Yep, there. That's it.
Yeah.
The Tim Curry Pennywise right there in this dead center.
Yeah.
And I thought there was another one somewhere in the room here that...
Yeah, not recognizing anything yet.
But yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So good. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are afraid of clowns.
Yeah, throw a picture of Cesar Romero in here or something.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is so cool. I would love... If I were Finn, I would have asked to take that prop home. Mm-hmm. Now, Beep Beep Richie is a callback to the novel.
Okay.
That is improperly put... So Richie is obviously a talker. He's a shit talker.
Yeah.
And... I guess I identify with Richie's character because he just makes jokes, and some of them are inappropriate just for the sake of getting a laugh, and that's me. Mm-hmm. And so, I forget which character says it, or if maybe they all do, but they say beep beep Richie, as in, like, pump the brakes, okay, that's enough.
Okay.
So that is it's in reference to him saying something inappropriate. So it doesn't...
It's weird they didn't integrate that. They easily could have done that.
Right, they could have just had in the dialogue.
Yeah, even once or twice. Yeah.
But instead they had Pennywise do it.
Yeah, so it loses the whole context.
And there was another little Easter egg because one of the kids, I'm pretty sure Patrick Hockstetter, the one that they had go in the sewer, was actually like stuffed inside of an old refrigerator at the junkyard.
Oh, okay.
And so, again...
They didn't reveal him at all in that regard.
No, they didn't.
No.
This is awesome. I love shit like this. Very not scary at all. Very scary. I don't remember the circumstances in the novel with the reason that Eddie breaks his arm. I know he does. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember how. I feel like it might have been in the Nibolt. They do go into the Nibolt house.
Well, that's where they are now.
Right. Yeah. I'm saying in the novel. This is true. The events that they're seeing are not the same.
Okay.
But the beat of them going into the haunted house to... I want to say they find like a well or something that is like maybe that's the point of contact. It's revealed where like the meteor hit a million years ago or something. But for some reason this is like where God, that is so good. Like this is the gateway, the access point to the, where it hibernates and then comes back up from. God damn, that's so scary. Love the blood. Mm. I love the visual. All of this is great. Mm-hmm. I have probably 10 different Funko Pops of Pennywise in various permutations.
Sure.
One of them is this one with the thing through his head. Mm. It's an interesting, and I'm sure there's the well. Mm-hmm. This isn't probably the first time that the concept of evil showing you what you're afraid of has manifested itself. But, fuck me. But,
there she is.
Yeah, there she is. In her fat suit. I don't remember in the sequel if they have Eddie's wife. It was kind of made clear that he grew up to marry a woman that was exactly like his mother. Same, overweight, nagging, hypochondriac.
Sure.
Basically, he married his mother.
Yeah, he's a mama's boy.
I don't remember what they do with that in the second film, off the top of my head. Yeah. But...
He's all fucked up, man. He really...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's got...
Still patched up on the other side.
On the other side, right? Yeah. Now he's got a claw mark on this one.
Pour some gunpowder in it, like John Rambo, and just... cauterize the wound. She does.
That's a great reference. It's topical.
Yeah.
Now we have dissension in the ranks, which... Had they set up the pacing been different.
Right.
This could have been a borderline. Well, this could have been a midpoint.
Yeah.
This could be a lost point. Right before.
Right.
but we're like at an hour and a half, so it's
there's
weird.
Like 45 minutes left.
Right. So it's like the 3/4 mark, which is weird.
Yeah. I just felt like it just my main problems were just structural. It feels a little out of whack. You just had this big sort of near climax, and everything's kind of broken up. Then they're gonna like not be back together for like another month or so.
And Nibolt Street could have easily been a midpoint as well,
right?
Had they done it a little bit differently,
right?
Their first confrontation,
right,
could have been the mid.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. This is weird that they've all like gone their separate ways.
Mm-hmm. For the rest of the summer.
And maybe that painting was supposed to be indicative of the well.
Probably.
You know. Really?
Right. Don't go killing church, that's another story.
That is another story. I feel like, again, I'll say I feel like they underdeveloped
right
the bullies.
So, is there a lot more layers to them in the novel?
Absolutely. At least Henry Bowers, for sure.
Yeah.
This relationship with his dad is much more fleshed out, and plays a significant role in the adult version.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a complicated story. And they had to leave out so much.
She's definitely listening to Bon Jovi albums.
Well, yeah, New Jersey had just come out.
Mm.
So, New Jersey has Bad Medicine.
Oh, yeah.
I'll Be There For You.
Mm-hmm. Born to Be My Baby.
You Got It.
Some hot tracks.
And the opening, the first track, Lay Your Hands on Me?
Oh, yeah. Hot. All hot.
Yeah, 1989 at its finest.
Mm.
Born to Be My Baby is a top 5 Bon Jovi song for me. Desmond Child, man, he knows how to write a hit, doesn't he?
And damn straight just has Paul Stanley.
You got it. And Cher.
And Alice Cooper. I mean, it's at least the thing with the performance this guy puts on for Bowers here, that early on in the film you can tell he's not just a regular bully. There is some shit fucked up in this kid's head.
Right. And it is nice that they have the bullies also like terrorized by and you know affected,
getting preyed upon. Yeah.
Pennywise is an equal opportunity entity.
Yeah.
This happens. This evil gifting him the knife happens in the novel in the adult section.
Okay.
When he is locked away in a mental hospital.
That's interesting.
So, unless it happens in both, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he gets it like it appears again.
Okay.
I just remember the
other one's more prolific.
Right, yeah. This is the same program that Eddie's mom was watching on TV.
Right, yeah. I mean, this is all effective stuff, but like you said, you could see that they could have done a whole, 20 minutes worth of story with this entire relationship to really give it the payoff it needed.
I think this is correct. I think he actually does kill his dad in the novel. And maybe I'm misremembering in that the story of him killing his dad happens as a flashback in the adult years. Because they also have a little bit of that back and forth, the bullies. Well, the surviving people. And I'm just remembering it as being later in the novel, therefore Yeah. It's really hard when you, take every other chapter.
You kind of spreading the pieces apart and putting them over here, put these over here.
Right. It's like you took the puzzle apart.
Yeah. There we go.
Look at the upholstery on those chairs. Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is very well done.
Yeah.
And why would you go looking for it?
Right.
So that's really I love when writers do things like that and give you half of the story and let your mind do the rest.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is, to me, is the best piece of prolonged tension the film has because it's so real.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is scarier than the clown.
Right.
And this does happen in the novel. Well, she runs away from him. He, chases her down through town and whatever, but...
Trying to read the company name on his tag there.
Ow! Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't remember what it is.
Yeah. You get close enough.
I want to say the big word is maintenance or something.
Yeah.
There's the standpipe.
There is something.
But it's not a plot point.
Right, exactly.
It's just a backdrop.
You're shaking around in your face. Here you go.
Right.
You don't get to have it.
Right, exactly. I was so pissed. It's the one thing that really just honked me off really bad about the movie is that, and it's probably a budget thing. If you're going to introduce that as a plot point, you have to pay it off with it falling over and rolling through town and destroying.
Gotcha,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that might not be possible.
Yeah.
So I get why they didn't.
Sure.
But they really just I'm Street 5. Yeah. Sure.
There's the poster too.
Yep. There's the old on the side of the milk carton there.
Oh yeah.
Gazebos. That's out of the novel. That's a very Stephen King thing to do. He's a really good actor, too. Yeah. Again, what is Mike's role in this movie?
He doesn't have a plot purpose. He doesn't have a story of his own, no.
And I get that he didn't really... I mean, he was like the last one to join.
Right.
And in the novel, it's kind of okay that he doesn't have the strongest plot.
Right.
Because he's the storyteller.
Right.
He's your narrator, almost.
That's why in a structural way, it'd be... If you moved him joining them earlier, then you had him giving off the exposition, you flop those two plot points around in the structure, then everything kind of falls into the right time slots in the story.
Right. But they were trying to be cute.
Right.
And it didn't work.
Yeah. In the novel, Beverly doesn't get kidnapped or anything, does she?
No.
So it's...
I don't remember exactly what it is, other than, like, her dad was her biggest... Adversary, yeah. Right. There's Stan not wanting to go.
In the novel, is it them in summer? Because in the first adaptation, they were still in school. They had a lot of sequences where they're in school and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the... Yes, it is. It's like the end of the school year.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like it's all over the summer.
Okay.
I'm due for another read.
Sure.
Damn it.
Give yourself 6 months.
Well, it's 1,100 pages.
Yes, I'm just saying. You gotta scrape out some time for it.
I got the new one. I still haven't read the new one. Fairy Tale is what it's called.
Mm.
And it is... Fairy Tale is set in rural Illinois.
Okay.
And makes reference to many towns in suburban Chicago, including Elgin, where I'm from. So that's super exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Apparently it's a really good read as well.
Okay.
And again, I think I'm mashing up the movie, my memory of this movie and my memory of the novel. Because I feel like they do go and like try to save her.
Okay.
But it might not be this pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. I've never looked at like a Wikipedia article on the novel.
I'm here now.
Is that what you're looking at? I've never read a Wikipedia article about the novel.
Okay, well, one thing, Eddie is hospitalized. He's attacked by power, so he's not involved with this.
Right.
They go down here without the full strength of everyone.
Right. That sounds familiar. Which is used as justification for why it didn't succeed. Again, the visuals of this are amazing.
Now, looks like the Hochstetter character is kind of the one that he uses to lure them in. He basically does the same setup, but it's with Patrick Holstetter.
Right.
So they just kind of like take that as the initiative. It's like, okay, we're just going to go after them and use the silver and stuff like that, thinking that that's going to take care of it, and so on and so forth. So it's similar setups, but just a little bit
right.
of
It's just
the
a
pieces
little
shuffled around.
Right, right. This is tremendous. Look at that. God, I love it. The distorted music is so good. And Skarsgård is outstanding. I love the teeth. This is like the third or fourth time that they've done this, and that being the biggest, most elaborate.
Yeah, the deadlights.
Again, that's one of those like subconscious, weird, super cocaine things that happen at the end of the novel. Is Bowers supposed to be covered in blood because he just killed his dad?
Yeah.
That's dad's blood on him? That's the idea? Okay.
Yeah.
And they've kind of turned this into just a racial...
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't work as well in the 80s as it did in the 50s.
Right,
you know what
right.
I mean, there was an element of that, like I said, but it wasn't his plot.
Yeah, no.
He was like an outsider.
It just feels like a random thing to create a antagonism between them.
Right. That's the gun.
Yeah.
The air gun.
Yeah.
Or whatever, the brain pokey gun.
Or whatever it is.
From the slaughterhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
Ow!
Oof.
Jesus!
Yeah, it feels a lot like you could have just written Mike out entirely. Would have almost no bearing on anything.
Right. And again, it's not as egregious in the novel because Mike, this entire time, has been your narrator.
Yeah.
And...
there's a purpose to it.
Right. You feel like you're connected to him, even though his portion of the story is minimal.
Right. But he's the one fleshing out the story to give you the context.
Right. Right. Because he stayed.
Right.
He did not forget.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
But again, I mean, there's so much detail, and how do you...
Sure.
The movie, it would have to be like a 12-hour TV miniseries.
Which would have been a fine way to go. I would have been on for that.
Well, me too. Which is what they did with 11/22/63.
Yeah, that one... Yeah, I had a lot of problems with that one.
Well...
It had good parts. I just feel like there's some execution flaws.
Yes. Agreed. It also... Oh, my God. It also was changed a little bit from the novel. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait. If you're given 8 hours... Right. Or 9 hours, whatever it was.
I think it was 6 or 7 episodes.
Why not just go with the story?
Right.
As told.
Right.
Same thing happened with Under the Dome. Mm. They made that into a TV show, and the concept of Under the Dome is that one day in small-town America, a dome comes down over the town,
yeah,
and now the town is trapped in a bubble. Mm-hmm. Which, if I recall correctly, the first episode followed the novel like page for page.
Sure.
And then they just said...
Shot off in different directions.
Now we have the premise of a TV show, and they made like 4 seasons out of it, and just had it be its own...
They made at least 2 seasons, I know that.
They just had it be its own thing. And
right.
So it was like episode 1 was the source material, and then they made up their own stories after
something
that.
I said in one of our previous ones, like... When you started going off and wanted to do like a sequel or a prequel to something that King wrote, but he didn't actually write a sequel or prequel himself, you're getting into some dodgy territory.
Right.
At least as of like 2 years ago, they were going to develop a prequel TV series to this.
Right, to kind of go back and show you some of the previous entries in the 27 cycles.
Or yeah, something like that, yeah. It's going to be set in the 60s or something like that, so I don't know. But with everything going up in flames at Warner Brothers, God knows what's still in production progress or anything.
There's not nearly as much of the kind of childhood camaraderie and like anecdotal stuff that kids do over the summer.
Yeah.
In this novel or in this version that happens in the novel, that is all just character building.
Right.
Which I guess you don't need. But like the entire playing in the Barrens kind of thing.
Sure.
One of the neat little kind of subplots is that as they're playing in the Barrens, Ben actually constructs a dam.
Okay.
To like stop up the water or whatever.
All right.
And they're all just amazed that he would, they're like, how did you know how to do that? Uh-huh. And he was like, I don't know, I just kind of saw it and I built a dam, which is foreshadowing, and in this case it was flashbacking, from the fact that he became a very famous architect.
Okay.
And designed famous buildings around the world that some of them mirrored, say, the library that he used to study in Derry. Okay. And there's a lot of those little subplots that are really cool that have no purpose in the movie. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. I mean, is this like you kiss the princess or something and she comes out of her coma?
I really like those two so much. I just like... They're really sweet together. I really like Ben.
Me too. And the casting is great. Like, if they had cast somebody differently, I feel like it would have...
Right.
It might not have worked.
Mm-hmm.
This is heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he's just walking around with the stump of an arm.
Right, right.
I really think everybody did such a great job with this.
Yeah.
I know. It's gut-wrenching.
And just knowing that this is the point where he just has to realize, I've got to accept the reality. He's been in denial for like a year now. Like, convinced that he's not dead. And now he has to just own up to the fact that, yeah, I got to let go of it.
This is wild. This is... The arm growing back.
Mm.
The shoes turning into clown shoes. The digital effects on this thing are...
Pretty exceptional, yeah.
Yes. I'm terrified.
Mm.
And I'm not really afraid of clowns. So good.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember this fight in the novel where it's kind of like whatever you believe will kill it works.
Yeah.
Because I know ultimately Eddie's inhaler is a factor. I don't remember if they do that here in the movie.
Not in this one. They did in the previous version where it says like this is battery acid.
Right.
So it's like you twist the whole thing back up on itself. It's like he uses their deepest fears and their imagination against him. Now they're able to twist it back upon him.
Right. It's so funny. I was telling a friend of mine that I was coming here to record this podcast or YouTube show or commentary, and he's not a fan of horror movies.
Sure.
But I said, it's the scary clown movie, and he basically said, I just won't be afraid of it, and poof, he's dead. And I was like, oh, so you just know you know the whole movie now.
Yeah.
So, shout out to my dear friend Gio for thinking he knows everything about this. And I was like, well, then we'll just watch it then, and then you'll see for yourself. I don't think that's going to happen. In a way, that's almost like it is the premise of Nightmare 1.
Right.
You turn your back on it and whatever.
Your fear feeds it. If you take the fear away, then he just dissipates. He's no longer
right. Now,
effective.
It is a little bit different here.
A little
in
bit.
that, you basically kind of use your...
You kind of have to confront your own fears.
Right. Confront your fear, them. And if you believe you can defeat it, you will.
Yeah.
He says fuck so many times in this one. And here's the burnt people coming out of the house, that he survived the house fire, I guess, that killed his parents in this version of the story. And now it's turning into all their fears.
Right, he's trying to almost grasp anything possible to kind of overcome them.
Right. So it's weird though, because like Ben's apparition was the kid that burned at the ironworks on Easter Sunday.
So it doesn't add up as much.
Right, like that doesn't work.
Even then, like you said, it was a little shortchanged in a setup. You never really explored anything after that was deep-seated.
Right. That is a beautiful digital effect. Beautiful.
And I like the fact that when he was transformed to the other guy, you still had the little streaks down his cheeks.
Oh, yeah.
Where the red is.
Which they show in the sequel. There's a scene in a flashback of Skarsgård, like, as a version of Pennywise, before not in a clown form. It's like a regular person. And so they do kind of just turn the fear on it. I'm remembering now, I think their initial run into the Nibolt house, he escapes back into the well or whatever. Like, they battle and injure him, but not completely. And maybe that's the one where Eddie wasn't present for. Because they were definitely all there at the end of in the final sewer battle.
All right.
It's Georgie's raincoat? Is that what that is? Okay. I have such vivid memories of going to see this on the very first day that it opened. I went with my great friend Kim, and we went to like the first showing on the Friday, like the noon show or whatever it was. And she has vivid memories of like looking at me watching the movie and just like in awe and smiling. And yeah, granted there were some limitations, right? And there's some changes and some this and that. But I don't know, they did such a great job of the overall story. You know what I mean? And it was fresh at the time, so I was like, the novel was fresh.
Okay.
So I do feel like it's about as good as you could get without going back and forth.
Sure.
And this is a scene right out of the novel where they all cut themselves with a Coke bottle and basically do a blood oath. Mm-hmm. And they swear that if it ever comes back, that they'll come back together and fight it. And I remember sitting in the movie theater during this scene, and I got like tears in my eyes because I was... to the kids in the story, it means so much. Mm-hmm. And to me as a reader, it means so much. And they nailed this scene.
Okay.
And the implications of, like, we're telling you that there's going to be another chapter.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is the perfect ending to this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure that Stan was the first one to let go.
Yeah, he was.
Which is telling.
Yeah.
And he's the first one to leave.
Mm-hmm.
They never said what the key was around her neck.
Yeah, I was wondering about that earlier.
Again, another limitation of time is that they just kind of called themselves the Losers Club in this movie. But I feel like it wasn't fleshed out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they really felt like losers in the novel.
Yeah, they don't set up quite as much of that. It's like only Mike really gets attacked by the bullies. None of these other ones get any kind of harassment or anything like that. It feels a little shortchanged, I guess I could say.
Right. But the relationship between the kids is there.
Yes.
And that's really what counts.
Right. Yeah, she is just so damn good.
How awful would it be to be 13, to get kissed by the girl you love on her way out the door?
Oh, yeah, she ain't coming back anytime soon. Oh. And of course, when this came up in the theater, it was like, oh, you heard the... Just heard the rise in the audience when it came up.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And now we've got, I don't know, 7 minutes of credits?
About 5 or 6.
So, I know I know when you announced that this commentary was happening, there were people that said that they were not fans of this adaptation. So, I'm interested to see...
Sure.
I'm interested to get some people's opinions, both from folks that read the novel and ones that have no point of reference.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I like the character stuff more than the horror stuff, honestly.
Well, that's King.
Yeah.
That, you know, I mean, that's his whole shtick, is that it's real people in weird scenarios, and the horror is the backdrop.
Right. I mean, just in terms of, like, execution, it's a lot more kind of jumping out at you, loud sounds type of thing. It's not quite as
cerebral. Right.
It's not as much atmospheric suspense build up, creep you out with the silence and stuff like that. It's trying to jump out and scare you, which is less effective in the long run for me.
Right. Well, so much of King's stuff takes place in the mind.
Yeah.
And it's very hard.
You can burrow an idea into your brain.
Right. And it's... Well, let's go back for a minute to The Shining.
Sure.
The entire point of The Shining is that Jack Torrance is an alcoholic and has a mental breakdown.
Okay.
So, almost everything takes place in the imagination.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And not to say that there isn't, I mean, that it's not like, oh, surprise, it was just a dream at the end. Like, that's not how it works. But how do you visualize that without...
Right. Well, I mean, I'll just throw off... When I saw... The one time I saw The Shining, it was just like, okay, Yoriel looks like a miserable person from the beginning of the film. It didn't feel like there was like a progression of things, but shout out there, Alec Gillis, Tom Woodruff Jr., Studio ADR, they've done a lot of the work on, like, the later Alien films, a whole bunch of other stuff. Exceptional, top-grade type of guys. If you're talking about practical effects, the monster effects, those are the guys responsible. They went off from the Stan Winston School and established their own company and followed up on his work.
Well, they did an excellent job. Oh, yes. And they should have gotten Oscar nominations.
They're 100% all the time.
But again, it's a genre film, so this got no love.
No.
By anybody.
No.
Stupid. So stupid. But yeah, this is, I don't know, I loved it. I got tears in my eyes at the blood ceremony there at the end. I just absolutely love this novel. It's so, I mean, granted, it gets way out there at the end with the deadlights and the turtle and the whatnot, but the story is so great. I don't know. All of my favorites of his stories are the ones that are like super long and super complicated.
Now, in recent times, you said that you warmed a little bit more to Chapter 2 than when you first saw it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was discussing that when you first saw it, and it was a little on the harsh side of things.
Well, they really changed up the adult versions. Yeah. And so going into Part 2, I went in with a critic because I liked this one so much.
Yeah.
I was watching it as an adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so thrown off by the fact that they changed so much that it left a bad taste in my mouth.
Sure.
So then I rewatched it. Now I wasn't looking for...
expectations realign, so you can kind of...
Right. I watched it for what it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't comparing.
Yeah, I've been that way on certain films before.
So watching it as a straight, like, tell me a story.
Yeah.
I actually thought it worked better than originally.
The first impression
right.
Yeah. So that one's as we were discussing before. You hit play and all that stuff, record. It's a long one.
Yeah, that one's almost 3 hours.
That was going to be a bit of a set.
I mean, this one was long, but the other one is longer.
Yeah, so.
And it's interesting because in the other one, they actually do show some flashbacks of the kids.
Yes.
with digital, like, de-aging, and
yeah,
I don't know, it's weird. But, I don't know, it's almost like, if you were going to do that, why not just do them both at the same time?
Right.
Film them around the same time.
Yeah.
And
done a back-to-back thing or something like that.
Right.
I guess they're just hedging their bets, like, let's see how the first one works, but the fact that they're doing chapter 1 to the end and all that type of stuff, they're clearly intending it, so it's a little dodgy on that approach.
We'll save the success of this one for the sequel.
Yes.
And we'll talk about how that actually impacted...
Sure. How they went along.
How it changed things, yeah.
Yeah, so...
All right. Thanks.
All right, guys, so let us know. And,
I want to all the comments. Put all the comments in there.
Yes, thanks. So we'll figure out when the chapter 2 hits in the schedule, so let us know how hot you are for it. Bye.
See ya.